Imagine the leader of a superpower diving into the ocean and never coming up. Think about a genius inventor stepping into a private train car and literally evaporating before the next station. Or a fighter pilot whose jet is seen on radar merging with an unidentified craft before both flicker out of existence. These aren't low-budget sci-fi scripts. They are cold, hard historical facts where famous figures simply checked out of reality, leaving behind a void that logic can't fill. Number 1. Being the head of state usually means you lose the luxury of privacy. You can't even go to the sink without a security detail breathing down your neck. Yet in 1967, Australian Prime Minister Harold Holt pulled off the ultimate vanishing act. While visiting Cheviot Beach, a stretch of coastline famous for currents so violent they could pull the boots off your feet, Holt decided to take a dip. Witnesses watched him wade into the surf, and then he was gone. The ensuing search was a titan of Australian history, involving massive resources and thousands of man-hours, but they found nothing. Not a shoe, not a shred of swimwear. While the official report claimed accidental drowning, the public wasn't buying the boring truth. The theories that followed were pure gold. Was it a staged suicide? An assassination? The reigning champion of conspiracies suggests Holt was a clandestine Chinese spy and a submarine surfaced just long enough to extract him. It sounds like a bargain bin spy novel, but it's certainly more captivating than Man Swims Poorly. Number 2. Thomas Boston Corbett is a character so surreal he feels like he was written by a feverish novelist. He's famous for being the Union soldier who defied orders and gunned down John Wilkes Booth, but his personal history is even more deranged. Corbett was a religious zealot so terrified of his own desires that he once used a pair of scissors to perform self-castration just to remain pure. After the Booth incident, his celebrity status only fueled his deep-seated paranoia. He became dangerously erratic, eventually being hauled off to a mental asylum. But Corbett wasn't a man to be caged. He staged a daring breakout, managed to steal a pony, and galloped toward the Kansas horizon. He was never seen again. Think about the irony. The man who brought the curtain down on the greatest manhunt in American history ended his own story by riding a small horse into total oblivion. It is the perfect, absurd finale. Number 3. If you're going to commit a crime and walk out of the world's front door, D.B. Cooper is your patron saint. In 1971, an impeccably dressed, soft-spoken man hijacked a Boeing 727. There were no screams, no theatrics. He simply ordered a bourbon and soda, then handed a note to the flight attendant, explaining the bomb in his briefcase. He demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. Once the ransom was delivered, he ordered the plane back into the sky. Then, in the middle of a midnight thunderstorm over the dense, jagged forests of the Pacific Northwest, he jumped out of the rear stairs with a bag of cash strapped to his chest. He became an overnight legend. The FBI chased his shadow for decades, finding nothing but a small, rotting bundle of his cash years later. He didn't just escape the law, he exited the physical world with a level of charisma that hasn't been matched since. Number 4. You have to appreciate it when the universe provides a foreshadowing clue so obvious it feels like a prank. In 1969, folk musician Jim Sullivan released a hauntingly lonely album titled UFO. The lyrics were obsessed with the idea of driving deep into the desert, abandoning the physical body, and being abducted by extraterrestrials. Fast forward to 1975, Sullivan is driving his VW Beetle through the New Mexico desert when he disappears. His car was found sitting on a desolate dirt road, abandoned. Inside were his wallet, his guitar, his clothes, and a box of his unsold UFO records. But of Jim, nothing. It's one thing to vanish, but to leave behind your money and your prized instrument suggests he didn't run away. It's almost as if he finally got called up for the gig he'd been writing about for years. Number 5. In the smoky, dimly lit clubs of 1950s Greenwich Village, Connie Converse was composing music that was light years ahead of its time. Her songs were complex, deeply personal and brilliant, but the mid-century world wasn't ready for a woman with that much raw honesty. After years of pouring her soul into a void with zero recognition, she hit a breaking point. In 1974, she wrote a series of heartbreakingly polite goodbye letters to her family, stating she needed a fresh start. She packed her life into her Volkswagen, drove off into the morning, and vanished from the face of the earth. There was no sign of foul play or a struggle. It was a quiet, deliberate, and surgically precise erasure of an entire human existence, leaving only her haunting voice behind on tape. Number 6. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse is a jagged rock sitting in the middle of the unforgiving North Atlantic. In 1900, it became the stage for a mystery that feels like the opening scene of a psychological horror film. A passing vessel noticed the beacon was dark, and when a relief crew finally arrived, they found a chilling tableau. The lighthouse was empty. The three keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Donald MacArthur, were gone. A meal of salted mutton sat unfinished on the table. Strangely, one of the men's heavy oilskin coats was still on its hook, suggesting he had rushed out into a lethal storm without protection. The logs recorded days of terrifying winds, and one of the men weeping in fear. They vanished from a locked building on a tiny island, leaving behind only the eerie feeling of a life interrupted by something silent and swift. Number 7. This next case is either a tragic disappearance or the most successful act of corporate theft in human history. In the 1880s, an eccentric British tinkerer named William Cantello was working in a secret workshop to develop a weapon that would revolutionize war, the machine gun. Suddenly, he cleared out his bank account and evaporated. Shortly after, an American named Hiram Maxim arrived in London and unveiled the Maxim gun, a weapon identical in concept that made him fabulously wealthy. Here's the twist. Cantello's own sons were convinced that Hiram Maxim was actually their missing father, living under a new name with his perfected invention. Did Cantello die, or did he simply rebrand himself and sell his world-changing idea as a total stranger? Number 8. Amelia Earhart is the undisputed monarch of historical vanishings. Most people assume she simply ran out of gas and ditched in the Pacific in 1937. But the alternative theories are far more cinematic. No definitive wreckage was ever recovered despite the most expensive search in history at the time. This led to the spy theory, suggesting she was captured by the Japanese while on a secret mission for the U.S. But the strangest theory is the New Jersey housewife legend. This claims Earhart survived, was secretly brought home, and lived out a quiet life under the name Irene Bolam. Amateur sleuths even point to a terrifying physical resemblance. The thought of this global icon of adventure spending her final years tending a suburban garden is the ultimate bizarre plot twist. Number 9. Judge Joseph Force Crater didn't just go missing, he became a part of the American language. In 1930s New York, if someone disappeared, you'd say they pulled a crater. This Supreme Court justice was a man with dark ties to the corrupt Tammany Hall political machine. On the night of August 6, 1930, he finished dinner with friends, hailed a taxi, and drove straight out of reality. Investigators found he had recently emptied his bank account and burned several sensitive documents, suggesting he was either running from the mob or being blackmailed. Was he buried in a concrete foundation? Did he flee the country with a secret lover? He became the missingest man in New York, turning a person into a permanent slang term for the unknown. Number 10. When you're an heir to the Rockefeller fortune, you aren't supposed to just disappear. The world usually keeps a very close eye on you.
But Michael Rockefeller wasn't interested in Manhattan boardrooms. He was an anthropologist obsessed with the remote tribes of New Guinea. In 1961, his catamaran capsized. He told his partner to stay with the boat and made the fateful choice to swim for the distant jungle-choked shore. He was never seen again. While the official cause was drowning, the region he was swimming toward was controlled by the Asmat people, a tribe then known for ritual headhunting. The grim, unofficial theory that has lingered for decades is that the heir to one of the world's greatest dynasties was killed and eaten. It is a terrifying collision of two worlds that were never meant to meet. It's one thing to get lost, but it's another thing to vanish so completely that you become a legend. If you're still screaming at the screen about a disappearance we missed, maybe someone like Flight 19 or the Mary Celeste, drop that name in the comments right now. We read every single one for future scripts. Smash that subscribe button to join our community of history sleuths. And don't forget to check out the video on your screen now for more stories that defy reality. Thanks for watching.